Mullings with the MRINetwork, and joining us today, I'm excited about this, is Craig Picken, and Craig is the managing director of Northstar Group in Wilmington, not Williamsburg, Wilmington, North Carolina. And I'm going to start out first by saying Craig is in a space that, you know, when people grow up like with this affinity towards cars and motorcycles, which I never could wrap my head around, but he's in the general aviation industry and he rocks it hard. We'll get into it, but I'm going to be a little bit of a fanboy on this one. Just a heads up. Hey, Craig, how are you?
Oh, I am good. I am good. Happy Friday. Thanks for having me on.
Good to have you here. So share a little bit with the audience. What does general aviation mean, and what does your practice include?
So my practice includes it goes a little beyond general aviation, but business and general aviation. My practice includes. I work with several of the business jet OEMs. I've worked with several of the helicopter OEMs, and I've worked with a whole lot of the operators in the space. When you think about NetJets, I've worked with those guys. Executive Jet Management, I've worked with them. Clay Lacy Aviation, Dassault Falcon Jet, Embraer, Pilatus. Some of your major names in business aviation are companies that I've actually done work, some great work for.
Yeah, and you do
play some solid
work
executives.
At the executives level too, correct?
I work at the executive level. Yep. So you're talking about vice presidents of operations, presidents, CFOs, generally the higher decision-making categories.
Got it.
And that's just an area that I've really enjoyed. Yeah. I've got the knowledge of my background was, naval aviation, came out of the Navy, was a Gulfstream aircraft, was a Bombardier aircraft. I just took that experience into an industry that, I just came to know and really love.
So you were a pilot in Navy?
Yep.
And what sort of equipment or bird were you particularly in?
E-2 Hawkeyes, primarily.
Oh, so you and I were talking about the other day, and that was my dad's plane out of Grumman.
Yeah. So I got 2,000 hours in E-2 Hawkeyes, and two carrier tours in the USS Ranger, 325 traps. And then I took it over from Hawkeyes over to NATO for a couple of years, and was an exchange officer to NATO. My total service was 8 years
Wow.
8 years to the day, from the day I got commissioned to the day I got out.
Well, thanks for the service on the military.
It was good time.
And if you don't know what an E-2C is, or an E-2 Hawkeye, it's the one with the big pancake on it. And landing that on an aircraft carrier, which is like a postage stamp, it's like coming into a parking lot, and I don't want to, because Craig will tell you, doing about 150 miles an hour, locking up your brakes, and then getting right in between the white lines on the parking spot. Is that about accurate?
There's a lot of skill. It's interesting. The guys that fly off carriers, I could watch it all day, but the skill level that is involved in the training, I left the Navy in 1995, and these guys still amaze me every day with the skills that they come, and it's just a lot of fun to watch. Watch what they've done.
How about night landings? Did you hit those?
Yeah, we did. We did a lot of those. Now, just in all fairness, I was a naval flight officer. I was more the backseat. I was the backseat guy.
I don't care.
But yeah. So when I was with VAW 116, the Sun Kings, I would say 70% of our flying was at night. When we were, Persian Gulf.
Because you're surveillance, right? E-2 is pretty much surveillance, right?
Command control communications, surveillance. The E-2 is the, it's the eye in the sky, and it's the guy, it's the one, talking to all the other aircraft and the people on the ground, and it's got the big picture, and it's a great mission. So
good. So how did you convert where did you go from there? And then how did you end up being a dominant force in search with where you're sitting now?
So yeah, it was interesting. So when I left the Navy, I was just kind of trying to figure out what to do next. And I knew I wanted to be in the business of aviation, and, not really understanding what the business of aviation was. I just reached out to a lot of companies, and I had been to 70 different countries. My background was in, my college education. I'm a Bachelor of Science in International Trade with a minor in economics. a couple thousand hours flying airplanes, love airplanes. I just started talking to various executives at Gulfstream, Hawker Beechcraft at the time, Cessna, just trying to network my way into something. And one day I got a call from this guy named Gene Rainville, who was the vice president of international sales at Gulfstream, and he's like, "Hey, look, we've actually got a role down here that we're searching on, and come on down." He invited me down to talk with those guys, and I ended up landing at Gulfstream. Started out in international, more in international sales support, running around sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East, and then got moved over more to government and special mission, government military special missions. So the Air Force flies a whole fleet of Gulfstreams. The Navy does too. As part of the team that sold those and put them into their service. Didn't really want to be part of a government sales team for the rest of my life. I wanted more of my own sales territory. Was able to move over to Bombardier business aircraft and ran the Southwest United States, probably 5 or 6 states for FlexJet back in the early days. Had a great time there and a lot of success. One day that all ended after 9/11. Kind of an interesting gap. Knew some folks who were doing some pretty unique things in real estate. And we went from Huntington Beach, California to Lewisburg, West Virginia. If you think about this little town, if you look at I-64 on a map, right on the West Virginia border in the middle of nowhere is the Greenbrier Resort. And I took my experience of selling to uber wealthy people and sold them very high, very expensive real estate in the middle of West Virginia. So it just kind of flew with that. After about 5 years, it was time to go do something new. Financial crisis blew us all up anyway. Somebody literally said, "Hey, Craig, you'd be good at executive search." I said, "You know what? You're right. Let's go do this." Just started my own practice. And I said, here's what I'm focusing on. And I started it in the middle of the Great Recession, 2008, kind of, little Stevie Wonder with a white cane, and figured it out how to do it. So
you didn't know what you weren't supposed to know, right? I mean, I started mine in 1990, which was not as crushing as '08. But when you grow up literally in this business during the shittiest times,
it's a great, well, here's the great thing is that what it does, and this is what I tell people, I go, you got to get out of your comfort zone. So I looked at my wife one night, I go, where do we start? And I had this thing called the World Aviation Directory, which is about a book about that thick. I don't even think it's printed anymore. And she looks at me and she goes, A.
So we know who the brains of the operation are.
So my wife was the brains of the operation. And literally, look, I knew everybody in business aviation. I kind of put some feelers out. I said, "Hey, look, we haven't talked in a while." And they're like, "Yeah, cool. Hey, we'll call you when we need you." And in the A file, I ran into these guys at this company called AeroTurbine. And they were sort of a semi-startup operation, aftermarket parts, buying, selling, and leasing jet engines. And they were my first customer. And I was like, wow, you guys make money. How? And it was like the coolest thing. This goes back 12 years ago. Man, all of a sudden I became the guy. I just became the guy amongst people buying, selling, trading jet engines and aftermarket parts. And I took it from, I'm like, hey, it was a great place to start. And year one was much better than I ever imagined that it could do, thanks to the guys at AeroTurbine, who I'm always friends with and appreciate. And that's how I literally grew it. And it was just, hey, look, a little bit of fear and greed rules the world.
Yes.
There's a lot of fear, but you got a family to feed, so there's some greed there too. And that's how I literally, with a 20 by 20 square foot office. And a telephone and a computer.
Yeah, but the office doesn't make you the telephone. There's a lot of people with 20/20 offices. There's a lot of people with telephones. There's a lot of people with computers. Just like I always say, a basketball in my hands versus a basketball in Michael Jordan's hands, same equipment, different ROI, right?
Yep. Same equipment, different ROI. But once again, the fact that, I know what a CFM is. I knew what a V2500 power, we talk about that, my aviation, I know how to run a P&L. I'm literally the only executive recruiter in the world or in aviation who has professionally flown airplanes, who has professionally sold airplanes for 2 OEMs, and who has run a P&L. So I just tell business leaders, I go, look, you know, I know I know what you do.
Yep.
I know what your challenges are.
Yep.
And you know, you need good people. That's, you know, businesses big or small, you know, need good people. And you know, let's have that dialogue.
And what's interesting about the general aviation industry is the supply chain in it. People don't realize how vast it is. When you're talking about, again, I'm just going to pull it out, you know, a Falcon 2000 or a Hawker 800, or the amount of maintenance, people, equipment, supply chain that goes into those private jets.
It's massive.
Share it with us, just like
It's
quick. Yeah.
Well, you go to NBAA. I think what National Business Aircraft Association, what do they say? They get like 2,000 or 3,000 suppliers showing up. You got people doing, you know, software, you know, Camp Systems does software support. You've got people that are overhauling wheels and brakes. You've got people that are doing avionics modifications. You've got maintenance, repair, overhaul facilities, you know, like, you know, Standard Aero or, you know, Duncan Aviation or some of these other guys. You've got people that are out there doing things that, you know, GoGo and Satcom Direct that are putting in satellite communication systems.
Mm-hmm.
People just do not, you know, and this is a huge criticism. I literally, I wrote my congressman back during the Great Recession, not too long after it. It was just shut up. You know, they're just trashing business aviation.
Yeah.
You know, the fat cats. I just wrote them. I literally just said, shut up. You know, it's a $200 billion benefit to the country
Mm-hmm.
that costs nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's general aviation airports are generally supported by their, you know, by landing fees that no taxpayer
Mm-hmm.
support. You know, you get, you know, wealthy people who are out there, or companies who are out there, they're buying $50-60 million, you know, anywhere from $5 to $60 million jets,
And
they're
flying
hiring,
around, creating wealth for other employees and creating a tax base.
Exactly. And the amount of, you know, trash that was thrown at the industry, so, you know, because the fat cats, like, you guys are so full of shit. And it's just, to me, it was just insulting. So I literally had to, and I'm a big supporter now of, you know, I wrote a blog in support of GE's jets when GE closed its flight department down. I was like, wait a second here. You know, the first thing to go is the jet. The jet should be the last thing to go. You know, the first thing you need to do is get that guy and that guy and that guy on the damn jet
Mm-hmm.
to go see the customers.
And, you know, Craig, one of the other things that's really interesting and people don't think about this is the jet is actually the cheapest part of owning a jet, and the supply chain behind that, between gas, maintenance, hangars, pilots, insurance, right? All of those people who keep that bird in the air, the cheapest payment every month usually is the mortgage payment on the jet.
That's exactly it. But you talk about they talk about the fat cats, but I'm like, look, you know, you got people that are out there creating wealth. You know, business aviation, to me, when you think about, you know, when I worked at Gulfstream Aircraft, there were 3,000 people in Savannah, Georgia. There's 13,000 people down there now. Yeah. You think about Savannah, Georgia, 13,000 people developing incredible aircraft. I mean, like, you know, you talk about, you know, cutting edge of the technology spear aircraft. You go to Wichita, Kansas, there's Cessna out there, you know, thousands of people it supports. You go to Duncan Aviation in Lincoln, Nebraska, you know, thousands of people, or Dassault Aviation down in, you know, Little Rock, Arkansas. These are small communities where these jobs are high skill, high technical, well paid. They support the community. It's not like it's minimum wage stuff. It's, you know, that's what aviation and aerospace, you know, provides. You think about Charleston, South Carolina, with Boeing down there.
Yeah. And then go to the user, right? So, and I know this because I have the opportunity to fly private often. And when you walk on that plane and the number of people that are supplying that experience, to your point, and they're all mid to high income individuals, that, you know, you're talking about at no point, probably 20, 30 people touching that experience somehow or another, raising funds. their family, putting kids to school, contributing to the tax base, etc. Yet everybody points and says, the tax break for the fat cat.
Yep. The tax break for the fat cat. I'm like, well, what tax break? If that jet provides $10 million in additional revenue at 20% margin, which is, a net margin of 20%, which isn't extravagant. It's $2 million of margin that the company pays taxes on. It's a 30% tax rate. The jet may be it's like, hey, look, it's, it may be a capital write-off, but at the end of the day, it's a value to everybody.
How's it any bit different than somebody buying a building and putting their office in that building and getting the same tax deduction on that? How's it any different?
Or a car. There's no difference to it at all. It's just, look, the airlines will be the airlines. And, it got to the point where I used to fly 150, 200,000 miles a year on the airlines. I mean, I was a premier flyer with both American Airlines and United Airlines at the same time. If I had a meeting on Wednesday morning, say I had an early afternoon meeting on Wednesday, I didn't fly out Wednesday morning.
Right.
I had to fly out Tuesday night because I could not rely on the airline.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you got an airplane, all of a sudden now it's like, well, all right, I'll fly out in the morning. I'll go meet this customer. Mm-hmm. And when I'm done meeting with that customer, maybe I'll go pick up one more leg and I'll go meet with another customer. I'll go do one more thing. Mm-hmm. And then I'll fly home. To me, business aviation is just nothing but
it's time travel.
Benefit.
There was somebody I interviewed at MBAA about 2 months ago here in Palm Beach, and he said it's time travel. Mm-hmm. It allows you to get more work done, to raise more salaries for more people who want to work, and it's not an extravagance. People romantically want to make it an extravagance. The amount of work that revolves around those teams that go out and the economic benefit they bring to the entire community is insane. So I can get on that too hard on this whole subject.
Hey, look, I'll add one more thing. I'll add one more thing to that. Hang on a second here. I'm turning something down, and there we go. I'll add one more thing to that. Look, CJ, Citation jets are great little airplanes, small cabin, great airplanes. You put 6 people on a Citation jet, and I've done that on many occasions, or 5 people on a Lear 31. There's no luxury. There's no luxury.
No, Lear 31, I've been on that way too many times. Forget it. There's no luxury there.
There's small cabin jets.
There's not even a bathroom in it.
Yeah, you put 4 or 5 people on it, and you're like, okay, where's the...
Nicky, you were in the Lear 31 coming back from New York with me, right? That was a miserable experience.
Yeah.
Right? Now he's flying around in a Falcon, but now that was a 31. I was like, get me out of this thing. The air conditioning doesn't work. It heats up in the cabin because, right? I mean, it's,
Yeah. So, it's a lot of, it's look, the mystique of business aviation. And quite frankly, I'm actually critical of the industry. And I'll tell you why, because every time I open up a magazine, Business Jet Traveler, what do? They show some jet with the air stair door down and 2 good looking ladies getting off with some guy in an expensive suit,
right?
And champagne and a Bentley. And it's like, you guys are getting hammered at every direction, and you wonder why. Yeah. It's sort of like, let's just shut. I wear a Breitling watch.
Yep.
It's a $4,000 or $5,000 watch, but it's very understated.
Yep. And
there's something to be said about wearing a nice watch that is a little understated. Mm-hmm. So,
Look, you make sure we edit in the cockpit coming back from, the cabin coming back from Arizona. I think we had 11 crew members in it, gear stacked to the ceiling, people laying. It was just a way to get back. So we got everybody back.
Yeah, and that's, it's like, hey, look, let's go do this. So, but look, I'm a huge, and I got to tell you, when I talk to the people in the industry, when I talk to the people in the business aviation industry, they're just amazing. The CEOs, you go to General Aviation Manufacturers Association, or you get MBA, the folks that are leading these businesses and they're in these businesses, just really good people. really strong. They understand the industry. They understand their airplanes. They've got a good vision for what's next.
Hmm.
It's just one of those industries that, not a lot of people really know about it. There's a lot of mystique, but it's really a good bunch of people who
Agreed.
are in it.
Agreed. So I want to be able to deliver something to my people in the search industry who are as experienced, as talented, or even just starting out in a practice. So your biggest challenge you had in your first year or two that you wish Craig today was sitting next to you and talked you through it, what would that be?
Look, you got to start somewhere, and starting out is challenging. And going from somebody, going and you're saying, "All right, I'm starting from zero," and you're calling up somebody that you knew, a couple years ago, and they knew I left aviation and went over to high end real estate, and you're calling them up, going, "Hey, I'm back. I'm an executive recruiter now," and they're like, "I thought you were in real estate. What happened? What happened?" Look, so sometimes, once again, fear and greed. It's like, don't go necessarily to the people who are going, "Hey, look, I thought you were doing something different." Go learn, go learn about the industry first. You um, I hear a lot about people, business development, marketing, and things like that. I'm like, I think that's the last. Starting out, the first 6 months should be nothing but having conversations with executives, expecting nothing. Hey, what do you do? What's your business? Yeah. How are you guys making money? What are you seeing? It's not about got a guy, need a guy, want a guy, whatever else. It's learning, it's learning businesses. And, I think that's the way, I think the biggest mistake in the search industry people have coming in is that they feel like I got to go pick up the phone a lot, make a bunch of, make a bunch of calls. It's sort of like the chicken, the headless chicken type deal. And things. Slow down, stop. You know, I'll just give you an example today. Today, right now, with COVID going on, feels a lot like it did to me when I was first starting out. Minimal business is happening. Everybody's locked down. They've got their own issues doing it. What am I doing? I'm going back and reconnecting with people I haven't talked to in 2, 3 years. I'm going back and reaching out to CEOs that, we've sort of met, we've shook hands. It's like, hey, look, let's rekindle this relationship, because at the end of the day, here's what's going to happen is that it's the same thing that happened during the financial crisis. Bad times highlights bad executives, and good times hides a lot of bad behavior.
Oh yeah.
When the bad times come, you got 5 key players on your team who are going to get you through it. Everything else is overhead. Everybody else is overhead.
True.
And now what CEOs, the smart CEOs are doing is they're saying, is the team I got now the team that's going to get me through the mess of the next 24, 36 months? And they're having these conversations, and they're going, they should be having these conversations. And if it's not somebody who can make you a lot of money, or if it's not somebody who can save you a lot of money, what's the value to the organization in a mess? Either you're rowing or you're bailing.
Yep.
If you're just sitting,
right.
Man overboard. I'm sorry. That's kind of a harsh way to put it.
Right.
But that's the way a CEO. That's the way one CEO told me. So so that's what I'm doing now. When I talk about like somebody coming into the business, and I I have a lot of people calling me up. Hey, I'm new. What should I be doing? I'm like, 1, relax. 2, learn. Once you learn, start to do. But if you're starting, I never encourage people to practice on their customers.
Correct.
If that makes sense.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
You practice on your customer, you fail, you got no credibility. You practice on 5 customers, you got, 5 people you failed with, you got no credibility. They talk to their friends. Now there's 20 people that you failed with, and
right.
You're blown out of the water.
Yeah. What about moving forward? So you're a dominant force in your industry.
Yep.
You're top of the food chain, one of the top of the food chain. So where do you see the opportunities, one, for you to service your industry in a stronger way over the next few years?
What I am focusing on is becoming, just a valuable entity to anybody who calls me up. If it's, CEO of a company, if they're talking to me, it's not about just about search. Hey, look, how can I help your business? Who in my Rolodex who can I pull up out of my Rolodex that you should know to help you move forward? I'll give you a great example.
Even if there's not a fee involved, right?
There's no. Hey, look, it's you get value by giving value.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a guy call me up. We were talking. It's a long-term, someone we talk a couple times a year. He runs a big P&L, and they just bought this business. And he says, "What do you think I need to do?" I said, "Look, I know you bought this business, and from what I saw, it's kind of like, it looks a lot like eBay. People just put stuff up there, whatever. There's so much data and there's so much value you can get out of that just by slicing and dicing and figuring out. And then you could start to say, look, you can almost become like a Zillow for aircraft parts. It could be, you could start to say, a high pressure turbine blade should be selling for between this and this. And, oh, by the way, so people understand where the marketplace is. And, so he's like, man, it sounds like you've been sitting in my freaking, strategy sessions.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yeah, I know a little bit about it, but I just started thinking today, it's like, I was talking to the COO of this other company, and I'm like, he's talking about some other stuff kind of along the same lines, but a different vertical.
Mm-hmm.
You guys should know each other. Yeah.
Just a different wrapper.
Hey, Joe, let me introduce you to Fred over here. You guys are kind of talking the same language, non-competing companies, but there may be some value you guys collaborating and getting together. I think that's how you grow your business. Being a thought leader, that's how you grow your business.
Thought leader too. You put out a really compelling podcast weekly, is it?
I put out a weekly podcast. It's the Aerospace Executive Podcast.
Yeah, and we can find that on iTunes, right?
On iTunes or YouTube,
right?
Or my website, which is Northstar ESG. I'll give myself a plug there.
Yeah, pimp it.
But I've thought. Last one was president of Standard Aero's Business Aviation Division, Mark Drobny. Mark's a great guy. I've known him for a long time. Next week, I'll have another podcast with a guy named Houman Yazari. Houman is a guy that has turned around 3 different companies. Lawyer by education. He comes in, he kind of looks at things from a different angle. Mm-hmm. And he's taken 3 companies through bankruptcy, and he's gotten the shareholder. They bring him in. He figures it out. The shareholders get out happy. He sells, what's left of it, and he's done that 3 or 4 times.
Nice. Talking
about leadership in a chaotic market. Mm-hmm. Is that a better thing? So once again, I think no matter what your business is, providing value to people is the best way to get value for your business or to grow your business.
Yeah, agree 100%.
So, you doing it with your business all the time.
We do it. We, give, and to be standing in plain sight when somebody needs something. It's that simple. It's really not any more complicated than that.
No, yeah. It's, and the thing that, look, it's interesting. The thing that drives me nuts, and this is my little pet peeve about, executive recruiting. If you're going to send an email to somebody, or if you're going to send a note to somebody, or if you're going to call somebody, you better darn know something about them. A cold email, your profile on LinkedIn. I saw your profile on LinkedIn.
I've been creeping you.
And it looked good. It looked like it fit this role I've got.
It's like I get, how many, Craig, I get about 7 emails a day on LinkedIn that say, we could help you with your social media strategy. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Have you done any homework?
Yeah. No, I get the same. People call me up. The first thing I say is, we want to help you. I'm like, do you know anything about me?
Right.
Well, no. Why don't you tell us?
Why don't you tell us? Right. All right, my man. Listen, this was awesome. I appreciate the fly talk and appreciate sharing your experience and time with the audience as well.
Thank you for having me on board, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Look forward to doing it again.
Let's plan on it. I appreciate it.
All right.
All righty, man.
Sounds good.
Be well.
I'll get you the paperwork.
Thanks. This is Joe Mullings with the MRI Network.